glad you're here. Please, come in and have a seat. Let's see where the conversation takes us. When was the last time you got up in your feelings? Oh, let me tell you, I can get real guilty of it. Human communications can be a challenge, and sometimes somebody will say something to you and you feel some kind of way about it. And if you're in a long-term relationship with another adult human, the opportunities to get up in your feelings are prevalent. So what do I want to talk about today is something I think that we all face. Our feelings. Am I right? Feelings can be messy. Feelings can be challenging. They can be problematic. And they're also super real. At least to us, especially in the moment. But here's my problem with feelings. And I'm a feely person. I'm all about them feels. Our feelings aren't always facts. They don't necessarily match our reality all of the time. We can feel really, really strongly about something and be completely wrong. It happens. It happens to me a lot more than I care to admit, and certainly more than I'd ever acknowledge to my husband. But I'd say there have been times when I was absolutely, positively convinced my husband was mad at me. Like, I was racking my brain trying to figure out why he would possibly be so angry with me. What could be going on? And then how dare he be mad at me? And if he's going to be mad at me, well, then I'm going to be mad at him. And it's a recipe for a fight. Turns out, after I talked to him, he was in fact not mad at me. He was dealing with a depressive episode, actually. And he was mad at himself, mad at the universe, mad at his mental state, mad at a lot of different things, but I was not one of them. But it felt so real to me at the time. And that's kind of the impetus of today's conversation is feelings, man. They can lead us astray. They can guide us down some erroneous paths. And yet, our feelings are very real. Our feelings are often valid, and we have the right to feel what we feel. But I think we also have a responsibility that we don't take our feelings at face value, and that we hold our feelings accountable to some reality. And we invite perspective into the conversation with our feelings. Because oftentimes we feel a certain way because we're missing information or perspective or context. So here's the deal. Emotions are these subjective states inside us. They are intensely personal. They're real because we feel them. But facts are objective. You can check them. So that when we mix up feelings with facts, that's when things get messy. They get messy, they get out of hand, and honestly, it can lead us down the path of some really poor decisions, right? If we are making our decisions based primarily on feelings and we are not leveraging facts, we're not keeping ourselves open to new information, we're not seeking out objective sources of information about a situation. Well, I think we've all seen all kinds of examples of things that happen when we don't value facts and we let our feelings run the show, right? Right? I mean, you see it. I know I see it. Anyway, so let's talk definitions. You know how much I love a good definition. Let's start with emotions. Emotions are internal objective states like joy or fear or anger. They arise in response to our experiences. They're real in that we feel them, but they are not always reliable indicators of external truths. Facts, on the other hand, are objective realities. Things that are verifiable and consistent regardless of how we feel. We'll explore how to honor our emotions while fact-checking them against reality so that we don't get stuck into distorted narratives that lead to poor decisions. All right. So let's talk about some scenarios, like some examples of when and how this happens to us. One might be that in a relationship, you feel your partner is distant, right? They feel distance. They're being quiet. Maybe they're keeping to themselves. They're not engaging in the banter that you normally do. They're not participating in the activities you guys normally do together. And so you start to tell yourself a story that they're no longer interested in you, that they are bored. They don't find you good enough. They don't think you're funny enough or interesting enough or ambitious enough. And because you start telling yourself this story, you then start to flesh out the narrative. And if they're disinterested in you, well, then that must mean that they have become interested in somebody else. And so now they're distant because they're cheating on you. How devastating would that be? Sitting there, your partner grows distant, and then, like a dime store novel, next thing you know, they're cheating on you. But are they? Is there any grounding in fact in that assumption? Have you had a conversation and asked about it? Is there time that's unaccounted for? Are there other things indicating that there's some sort of problem in the relationship? Or is it just that they've been quiet for a couple of days? If we live in our assumptions, we can then start to change the way we treat our partner, become angry and resentful because they're being distant, because we presume that they're cheating. Right? We've told an entire story. We've created a whole narrative around their unhappiness that led to their infidelity when none of this has happened anywhere other than in your own imagination. And when you actually go and engage in the conversation and say, hey, why are you being so distant? And they go, oh, I know. I am so sorry. There's this project at work and we have this obstacle that we can't figure out how to overcome, and every solution I keep bringing to it fails, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I know I've been so distracted. I apologize. What happened to the affair? You know, the one you invented in your mind, the one that never really existed, but we felt a certain way. And so we acted based on our feelings instead of taking the time to fact check and find out what's really going on. It is an incredibly easy thing for a vibrant imagination to create narratives, right? So we have to be mindful that we're not allowing our feelings to paint narratives that exist only in our imagination. In the workplace, you might feel like you're failing because you had a bad meeting, right? The meeting didn't go well. The numbers in your report weren't accurate. Those were the numbers you had been provided. So those are the numbers that you reported out, but they turn out to not be inaccurate. Or maybe there's an awkward statement or a missed objective or responsibility, and you feel like your career is over now, that nobody respects you, that, right? It's easy to take these narratives and let them compound in our minds. But then you get your performance review and you see how well your work is regarded, and you see the positive feedback from your peers and your subordinates to your performance, right? Feelings are not facts. Just because we feel that one bad experience happened does not mean that a career is tarnished. You know, because two friends have a disagreement doesn't mean a friendship has to end. You don't have to agree in all things all the time. In self-doubt, you may feel like you're not good enough to try something new, when in reality, you have all of the skills you need to take on this new adventure, whatever it might be. In social situations, feeling like others are judging you, that's just letting your inner narrative and your inner insecurities manufacture somebody else's judgment. In all honesty, most people walk through this world completely concerned about what everybody else thinks about them, not really worried about what they're thinking about other people. We're much more self-absorbed than we care to admit publicly. We think the people are looking around judging us willy-nilly, and they're not. They're much more concerned about being judged themselves. So, while it's important we acknowledge our feelings when we have them, because feelings are like a warning system, like the warning light system on a dashboard, right? We experience them to help us contextualize our experiences, right? So, when we are laughing and having fun, we experience happiness and joy, and that is an indicator that things are running well, that this is a good situation, a good scenario, right? And when we feel things like anger, frustration, pain, sadness, these are indicators too that there are things that need our attention, right? It doesn't mean that what it's indicating is factual or actually happening. It's simply us reacting to something in the environment. And then the onus comes on to us to understand what in the environment is causing that feeling. And then what do we need to do to make the environment safe again for us? Right? Sometimes it's simply acknowledging the situation. Sometimes it's a safety thing, like you need to move yourself to a place where you're not in danger, right? But just because we walk into a room and feel anxious does not mean that that is not a safe room. It means that we need to understand what's causing that anxiety. Is it the people in the room? Is it objects in the room? Is it an expectation because I'm in that space? Like there are a lot of different things that can create danger or create a feeling of anxiety, and not all of them are based in reality. And we have to be willing to validate our feelings without necessarily letting them be in the lead. A few practical techniques that we can use to help manage our feelings and keep them in context and to keep them in perspective. Begin by labeling them, right? Simply putting a name on the emotion can go a long way to help you validating that you're experiencing that feeling. But it can create just a little bit of space between you and the emotion so that you can start to see where it's sourcing from, where its cause is coming from. My little podcast buddy, always curled up next to me while I talk. But it'll help create just a little bit of space between yourself and that emotion that you're feeling. Next, pause before reacting. Take a breath or two away briefly to let the intensity of the feeling subside. You can also challenge the thought behind the feeling. And what I mean by that is like asking yourself, what objective evidence supports this? Is there anything outside of how I feel to make me believe this is real? You can't count on just your feeling. And listen, I am an intuitive woman, okay? I am very much, I believe in following your gut. I believe very strongly in, I read energy in a room and in people, and I am very in tune to energy levels and those types of things. But even still, I take the time to challenge my feeling before I immediately react to it. Right? Yes, I believe in intuition, but I know it's not infallible. And I know it's not always grounded in reality. All right? If a feeling persists long enough, trust me, I follow it. But I'm not going to necessarily trust an initial feeling without vetting that feeling out and really challenging where it's coming from and what's driving it. One of the things that I really recommend is perspective seeking. Perspective is a big thing for me. You know, there are so many different ways that we can receive information, and our experience and the context in which we receive the information is always going to color it, right? So sometimes we are too close to a situation to be able to see it clearly. And this is where trusted counsel is so important. Have your people know who you can call and say, okay, I need to know if I am overreacting to this situation. I need to know if I am out of line here. And my people know they're going to get that call from me periodically. And they also know that I'll be here to take that call from them when they need help with perspective taking. Because sometimes we just need to say it out loud to somebody else so that we can hear it ourselves. Okay? Because the way it sounds when it lives just inside our own head is very different than the way it sounds when we articulate the words out loud to another person. Saying it to a witness helps. And then they can give you their insight. And listen, I have been validated on a number of occasions. Called up my friend and said, hey, this is what happened. He said this, I said that, then this happened. Am I out of line? Not at all. That's ridiculous. Nobody should do that. Okay, great. Good. I'm validated. And I've also been called on my bullshit. Why would you expect him to make that kind of, isn't that just like really selfish on your part? And why would you assume that anybody would do? Oh, yeah. I mean, as Reddit says, sometimes I am the asshole, right? Am I the asshole? Or am I legitimate here? Be willing to be both. Guys, acknowledge that sometimes your emotions are wrong. Sometimes your perception of the situation is wrong. Sometimes the information that you had is flawed. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong from time to time. All right? It doesn't make you a bad person just because you didn't have all the information when you made your first decision. It starts to make you a bad person if you insist on sticking to the bad decision in light of new information. Right? We got choices to make as people. Who do we want to be? How do we want to approach this world? Keeping yourself open to information, to perspectives, to varying opinions, helps make sure that the thoughts you're having are good ones. All right. Like I said, so what can we do? We can name the feeling. We can pause. We can take a breath before responding. We can challenge the thought. And we can seek perspective. Talk to someone, or if you don't have anyone you can trust talking it to, then write it down, journal it out, talk it out to yourself. All right. So I love a good mental exercise, especially in a situation like this. Um, One of my favorite games to play is What Could This Mean? It's a fun little exercise where you brainstorm alternative explanations beyond your initial emotional interpretation. Okay, so let's see. You are making dinner. Okay. You're in the kitchen, you're making dinner, you're cooking a meal. Your partner walks in, looks at what you're cooking, and says, I'm really not hungry, and then walks out of the room. What could that mean? Could mean he just ate something, didn't realize you were going to be cooking, isn't going to be hungry. Could mean doesn't feel well. Could mean that he has wanted something else for dinner. Could mean so many different things. What's the one way you get to find out what they actually meant? You could ask them. Amazing how well a conversation goes in a situation like that. What could this mean? It makes you think beyond whatever your emotional trigger just was. Okay? If you're having an emotional response to something that your partner or friend just said or did, it's not their fault. They are not responsible for your triggers. You are responsible for your own triggers. How we react and respond to what people say and do to us is our choice, right? And some of us have a tendency to assume the worst and then go down the dark trail from there, right? If your partner is 5 minutes late home from work, they're dead in a ditch somewhere. Couldn't possibly be that there was traffic. Couldn't possibly be that they, were delayed getting out of the office because a meeting ran over. Couldn't be because they stopped on their way home to pick up some supplies so they could make dinner. There are literally 952,000 different reasons that somebody might be 5 minutes late home. But if your assumption is to always assume that they've died in a fiery car accident, that does not ground it in reality, just because that's what your thought goes first. So what you can start to teach yourself to do is to list off all of the other things that could have caused that delay. They could have stopped at the store. They might have needed gas. There could have been a traffic accident, and they're simply waiting for the road to clear so they can drive past. So this exercise is a great way to condition your mind to not always jump to the most negative thing that it could be and assume the worst, right? Another is the fact versus story exercise. Write down the facts you can prove versus the story that you're telling yourself. What do you know for a fact, and what are you guessing? What blanks are you filling in from your imagination versus what you know to be true and factual? Here's another one for the litigious among you. Put your thought on trial. Imagine your emotion is a case in court. What evidence supports or refutes it? It's a great way to test the emotion and see how grounded in your real reality it is. And then, of course, our perspective shift, where you ask, if I were an outsider looking at this, what would I see as facts? If I were outside looking in, what would I be seeing? All of these help separate the emotional noise from the objective reality, right? Just a couple of techniques that we can use to challenge our feelings, to make sure that those feelings aren't being embellished by our imagination. So, tools and habits. I'm going to tell you journaling. I know you don't like to journal. It's okay. If it's not your favorite, you don't have to do a written journal. You can do a video journal. You can turn the camera on in front of yourself and talk yourself through it, or you can write it down, whichever works for you. When your emotions rise, writing them down along with the facts of the situation can help reveal gaps. A second practice we can use is 3 questions. Is it true? Can I prove it? If I were talking to somebody else about this, what would they say? Sometimes having an imaginary conversation with somebody that you trust in your head is a great way to get insights on what they would tell you. And then, of course, a reality check buddy. Who is your trusted confidant that you can go to and say, give me your thoughts on this situation? You lay it out and they help you adjust your perspective. All right. And I'm going to challenge you with some mindfulness practice. Staying present in the moment helps you notice when emotions are coloring your view, allowing you to pause and reassess as necessary, right? Just be present in the moment with your feelings. And just because our feelings are strong, just because our feelings are powerful, does not mean our feelings are right. Now, I am not invalidating all feelings. I am not saying your feelings are never right. I'm saying your feelings are not always right. And the only way that we can tell the difference between when our feelings are based in reality and when they're based in our imagination is if we are willing to challenge them, if we are willing to contextualize them, if we are willing to talk about them, to label them, to acknowledge that they are a warning system, not statements of facts. All right. So, we've been talking about self-care quite a bit in recent episodes. And I want to make a connection here to self-care, mental health, and fear. The idea that feelings are not facts is key in self-care because it helps us treat ourselves more kindly. Instead of spiraling from a fleeting feeling like a self-criticism, we can pause and respond with care. In mental health, it is crucial to recognize that emotions such as anxiety don't always reflect reality, and it helps us manage them rather than letting them control us. Overcoming fear is directly connected when we realize that fear is often a feeling rather than an absolute. I mean, fear at its core is a feeling. We feel afraid. We feel fear. And oftentimes, the things that we are most afraid of aren't really what's dangerous for us. My son, when he was young, was terrified of the dark, hated going out into the night after dark by himself. And it took a lot of work on his part to acknowledge that it was okay to be afraid and do the thing anyway. That the fear in and of itself isn't enough to stop you from what you want to accomplish, right? Part of that is growing stages, right? It's not uncommon for the young to be afraid of the dark. I think we all spend a little bit of time afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of all of the dark all the time, but there's certain dark at some time I'm not cool with. Some dark is creepy. Okay? Not all dark, but some dark. Dark in the right context is scary as hell. So, overcoming fear is it's an important part of self-care. Acknowledging the fear for what it is and not letting it dictate what we do and don't do with ourselves, our choices, etc. I want to encourage everyone to pause when strong emotions arise. I'm a firm believer that we don't make decisions when our emotions are high, whatever they are. We don't make decisions when we are angry, enraged, scared. We don't make decisions when we're overjoyed or overwhelmed. I'm just as cautious about making a decision in a state of euphoria as I am making a decision in a state of anger. They are equally as irresponsible and destructive in their potential, right? We want to be making decisions when we are in a level emotional state. We don't want to be making any types of major decisions in a heightened emotional state, positive or negative, because we can't be certain that we're being rational in those moments, right? So pause when at the height of our emotions, and take a moment to ask yourself, what do I know is a fact here? Grab your journal, write down your feelings and the objective facts of the situation. Another actionable step that we can practice if we don't want to lean to the journal, okay, we can practice reality checks with our trusted friend when we're unsure. And then we're going to challenge them to take one small action they'd avoid if they were solely guided by emotion, just to test that it's possible. So, next time you're overwhelmed, ask yourself, what's the concrete evidence supporting this feeling, and what might be missing? And if I were to treat my emotions with compassion, but not let them steer the ship, What's one step I could take forward today? These questions can help you reflect on both some self-awareness and some actionable growth. So this week, when you catch yourself in a strong feeling, pause and ask yourself, what's the facts I can verify? Then take one action based on reality, not just emotion. The goal is to notice how different it feels when you respond to facts rather than feelings. If you are someone who is guided primarily by emotions, this can be a bit of a different ride. But it's always good. And like I said, you're never going to hear me say that emotions aren't important. They're essential. They are part of what make the human experience what it is. But it's important that we keep them in perspective, we keep them in context, and we use them for the indicators that they are and not the basis of our decisions. Thanks for joining me in the living room today, guys. It's been really great chatting with you today. I always appreciate it when you stop by. Make sure you follow me on social media at Angela's Living Room on all platforms. If you'd like to support the show, you can subscribe to my Patreon and see all the behind-the-scenes action and some extended episodes. Have a great day.